The writings of Abraham, chapter 39. When I appeared before sovereign Nimrod, he was seated upon his throne in all his glory, but it was as darkness to me. At his right hand sat my father Terah, and around them sat the princes and noble ones of his realm. And the sovereign said unto me, What is this thing that thy father saith unto me, that thou didst this day enter into the room of his mighty ones and destroy them, and that thou hast spoken against our mighty ones, and against that ancient order which hath been handed down from our first father, whereunto we are called? The writings of Abraham, chapter 40. I answered the sovereign, saying, Why dost thou go on in wickedness to worship these dumb mighty ones, in which there is no power even to save themselves? Not only this, but thou hast led others to worship them, and to enter into that order which is most abominable in the eyes of the Most High Elohim. For your father, from whence it cometh, is the devil, and it is full of lies and blasphemies and all manner of evil, that men should lie and murder to get gain. Why wilt thou not serve the Most High Elohim, who created all things in the Shamayim and on earth, who hath created these, and holdeth the power to sustain thy life or to destroy thee? O foolish, ignorant, wicked sovereign, woe shall be unto thee forever and ever, for thou art the son of perdition, for it is he who is thy father. Thou hast corrupted the earth with thy sins, and with the sins of thy people who follow thee. It was for entering into this wicked combination to get gain that your ancestors were destroyed in the flood, when only 8 souls were saved. Wilt thou and thy people follow in their paths? Then the wrath of the Most High Elohim will descend upon thee to smite thee from before his face. Now put away these evil ways, and turn unto the Most High Elohim, and serve him, that there may be hope for thee. But behold, I see that thine heart is hardened in iniquity, that there is no repentance for thee, for the evil one has sealed those who are his. Wherefore all thy ways shall come to naught, and thou and thy people shall be destroyed from off the face of the earth. The writings of Abraham, chapter 41. Then I lifted my hands to the Shamayim and prayed, saying, O Yahweh Elohim, thou who sees all the ways of the wicked, and will bring every evil deed into judgment, look upon these evil ones and destroy them, that the whole earth be not corrupted by them and brought to destruction. The writings of Abraham, chapter 42. When the sovereign heard my words and the prayer which I uttered, he ordered me to be cast into the prison house until he had determined what to do with me. After 10 days, the sovereign gathered together all his counselors and rehearsed unto them all things concerning me. And when he had rehearsed all things unto them, he asked them, saying, What judgment shall such one receive who hath reviled the sovereign and our mighty ones and our holy order? And they returned judgment unto him, saying, The man who revileth the sovereign should be hanged from a tree until he is dead, and the tree then felled to the ground, while all the people shall shout, Thus shall it befall him who revileth the sovereign. But this man hath not only reviled the sovereign, but also our mighty ones, and our holy order. And according to our law, such one shall be cast into a furnace of fire until he be consumed, that naught remain of him in the earth. Let therefore the fire be increased in the sovereign's furnace, which is in Kasdim, where the sovereign's bricks are made, and let this blasphemer be cast into the fire, that he be consumed. The writings of Abraham, chapter 43. The sovereign so commanded, and for 3 days and 3 nights was the fire preparing in Kasdim, and at the end of that time I was brought forth from the prison to be cast therein. Nevertheless, while I was in the prison, Yahweh sent his messengers to minister unto me and to comfort me, and they said unto me, Fear not, Avram, for thy work is not yet finished, for thou shalt yet become the father of many nations, and thou shalt preach the berakah in far places, even in the land of Mitzrayim shalt thou declare the mysteries of thy Elohim. And though they cast thee into the furnace, is not Yahweh able to deliver thee therefrom? For through thy deliverance shall many be brought to bow down and worship Yahuwah thy Elohim, and forsake the evils of Nimrod. The Writings of Abraham, chapter 44. Therefore I came forth from the prison, confident in the power of my Elohim, and in his promise that I should be delivered from the fire. But as I came forth, the astrologers of the sovereign looked upon me, and by the power of Satan they recognized me, for they saw me clothed in light. And they cried out unto the sovereign, saying, O sovereign of all the earth, surely this is the man of whom we spake unto thee 50 years ago, that he should rise up to overthrow thy reign. Wherefore was he not slain? The Writings of Abraham, chapter 45. Hearing these words, the sovereign was greatly troubled, and calling my father Terach before him, he exclaimed, Is this then thy son who was to have been slain? And what child then did I slay at his birth? Speak now the truth, and thou shalt go free. But if thou speakest not the truth, thou shalt die with thy son. And Nimrod caused my father to swear concerning the matter. The Writings of Abraham, chapter 46. And my father answered the sovereign, saying, My sovereign, I am guilty, for because of my tender feelings toward my son, I did substitute for him the son of my concubine who was born on the same night. The sovereign's wrath mounted, and in his anger he cried, Who advised thee to do this thing? Surely that man shall die. My father, being terrified at the sovereign's anger, said, It was my son Haran who so advised me. Now Haran had not advised my father of anything, but the Ruach of Yahweh had wrought upon my father that he was loath to give me up to the sovereign. Nevertheless, Haran was privy to what my father had done, and Haran was one of the believers in the true Elohim of the Shamayim. But his heart was not firm, nor his belief sure. Wherefore Haran said in his heart, If Avram be delivered from the furnace, then shall I know that the Elohim of Avram is indeed the true Elohim. Wherefore Haran wavered in his belief, and his confidence waxed not great in the Most High Elohim. But my confidence was secure, for I knew that it rested upon the rock of my deliverance, and that the word of Elohim faileth not. The Writings of Abraham, chapter 47. Now when the sovereign heard the words of my father, he caused that Haran should also be taken with me, and leading us to the valley of Kasdim, they stripped us of all our clothing, and bound us with cords, and cast us into the fire. Now Haran, because his belief was not perfect in Yahuwah his Elohim, was consumed in the fire, that no trace of his body remained. But my belief remained firm in Yahuwah, and he sent his messengers to sustain me and release me from my bonds. And I was 3 days and 3 nights in the furnace with the messengers, conversing with them and being instructed by them. The Writings of Abraham, chapter 48. After the 3rd day, the sovereign sent his servants to govern the fire, that it might again be used for making brick. But when they came up to the furnace, behold, I was sitting therein conversing with the messengers whom Elohim had sent. Therefore the servants of the sovereign, being greatly astonished, went and told him of this matter, but he would not believe them. However, when the men persisted in their tale and showed great consternation, sovereign Nimrod himself came unto the furnace. But the messengers had departed, and I sat alone in the flames. When he saw me therein unconsumed, the sovereign cried out in alarm, O Avram, art thou a sorcerer greater than ours, that thou shouldest live in the flames unconsumed? But I answered him, Not so, O sovereign, but Elohim of the Shamayim, who is the true Elohim above all, hath sent his messengers unto me, and hath preserved me from this fire. Being much amazed, the sovereign exclaimed, Come forth then from the fire, for I see that no power of mine can harm thee. The writings of Abraham, chapter 49. Whereupon I ascended from the furnace and stood before the sovereign and his counselors, who examined me closely, but behold, even my hair was not singed. Wherefore the sovereign caused garments from his own wardrobe to be brought, and I was clothed therein, and he caused me to be seated upon a throne at his right hand, where my father used to sit, and he said unto me, What of Haran thy brother, who was cast into the furnace with thee? Did the messengers carry him away to some far place that he might be saved? But I replied unto him, Nay, but the belief of my brother was not perfect in the Most High Elohim, wherefore he was consumed in the flames. Upon hearing this, the sovereign marveled and permitted me to speak in his court concerning the Most High Elohim and the redemption which should be wrought in behalf of those who believed on his name. Nevertheless, the heart of the sovereign was not changed, for he glorified in power, and he thought to learn from my power by permitting me to speak. But about 300 men of those who sat in the sovereign's court were converted unto Yahweh, and followed no more after the evil order of Nimrod, wherefore they were cast out of the sovereign's presence. But as for me, the sovereign gave me many gifts, and sent me away in peace, and many were joined unto the believers in Yahweh from that day. For having heard of my salvation from the fire, multitudes came to my father's house to hear of Elohim, who could do such mighty things, and many were converted unto the truth.